I don't stay in motels anymore, no matter how tired I am. This happened 3 years ago when I was driving cross-country for a job interview. I'd been on the road for 8 hours and my eyes were starting to blur. It was late September, already dark by 7 p.m., and I was somewhere in rural Nebraska, where towns are 40 miles apart and gas stations close at sunset. I saw the motel sign around 9:30, the Prairie Rest Inn. It looked old but maintained, with that classic motor lodge layout where all the rooms faced the parking lot. Only 2 other cars were there when I pulled in. The woman at the front desk was in her 60s, pleasant enough. She asked if I needed 1 night or 2, and I said 1. She handed me a key attached to a heavy plastic tag with the room number stamped on it, room 8. "Breakfast starts at 6, she said. "Continental, nothing fancy." I thanked her and drove my car around to park in front of my room. The door stuck when I tried to open it, like the frame had swollen from humidity. I had to put my shoulder into it. The room was exactly what I expected. 2 double beds with floral bedspreads, a TV bolted to the dresser, a window with heavy curtains, and a bathroom with a shower tub combo. It smelled like cleaning chemicals and something underneath that, something musty and old. I dropped my bag on the bed closest to the door and went to take a shower. The water pressure was terrible and the temperature couldn't decide between scalding and freezing, but I made it work. When I came out, I noticed the bathroom mirror had fogged completely except for one spot. A handprint, small, like a child's hand. I stared at it for a second, then wiped the whole mirror down with my towel and told myself it was from whoever cleaned the room last. I got dressed and settled into bed with my phone. No signal. The Wi-Fi password the woman gave me didn't work. I gave up and turned on the TV instead. Late-night reruns of shows I'd never heard of. I fell asleep with the TV on, which is something I do in unfamiliar places. The noise makes me feel less alone. I woke up suddenly in complete darkness. The TV was off, so was the lamp on the nightstand. I reached for my phone, dead. I knew I'd plugged it in. I could feel the charger cord still connected, but the screen wouldn't light up. That's when I heard it, a wet, dragging sound coming from the bathroom. I sat up slowly, trying to see in the dark. My eyes hadn't adjusted yet. Everything was just shapes and shadows. The dragging sound continued, slow, deliberate, like something heavy being pulled across tile. I stayed completely still, barely breathing. My hand moved to the lamp on the nightstand. I fumbled for the switch and pressed it. Nothing happened. I tried again. Still nothing. The dragging sound stopped. I heard water dripping, then a soft creak like weight shifting on old floorboards. Something was moving in the bathroom. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it. Footsteps, small padding footsteps. They moved from the bathroom into the main room, slowly, closer. My chest felt tight. I wanted to get up and run, but I couldn't make myself move. I just sat there in the dark, listening to those footsteps come closer. They stopped at the foot of my bed. I couldn't see anything. The darkness was total, but I could feel it. Something standing there, watching me. The silence stretched out so long, I started to wonder if I'd imagined it. Then I heard breathing. Shallow and wet, like someone with a chest cold. "Are you awake?" The voice was small, a child's voice. I didn't answer. I couldn't. "I know you're awake," it said. "I can see you." My whole body went cold. I wanted to scream, to turn on the light, to do anything, but I just sat there frozen. "Why did you take my bed?" I didn't understand. I hadn't taken anything. The breathing got closer. I could feel it now, cold air on my face. It was leaning over me. "This is my room," it whispered. "You need to leave." I finally found my voice. I'm leaving. I'm leaving right now." "Good." The presence pulled back. I heard the footsteps retreat toward the bathroom. Then the door closed softly. I didn't wait. I grabbed my bag, didn't bother with shoes, and ran. I didn't care that my phone was dead or that I was wearing pajamas. I just ran. I made it to my car and locked the doors. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. When I looked back at the room, the lights were on inside. I could see movement through the window. Someone small, standing there, watching me. I drove until I hit the next town and pulled into a 24-hour diner parking lot. I sat there until sunrise, too afraid to close my eyes. In the morning, I called the motel to tell them I'd left the key in the room. The woman who answered wasn't the same one from the night before. "Room 8?" she said when I told her which room I'd stayed in. "We don't rent that room anymore." "What do you mean? I stayed there last night." There was a pause. "No one stayed in room 8 for 3 years." I told her she was wrong. I'd checked in. I paid. I had the receipt. She asked me to describe the woman who checked me in. When I did, she went quiet. That was my mother. She died 2 years ago. I hung up. I never went back for my phone charger, and I checked my bank statement later that day. No charge from the Prairie Rest Inn. Nothing at all. My uncle owned a bed and breakfast in Vermont that he ran by himself after my aunt passed away. I visited him one weekend in early November to help with some repairs before winter set in. The place was beautiful, an old colonial house with 6 guest rooms, wide porches, and views of the mountains. But it was remote. The nearest neighbor was 3 miles down a dirt road. I arrived Friday afternoon and spent the evening helping him fix a broken gutter and patch some holes in the roof. We had dinner together, watched some TV, and I went to bed around 10 p.m. in one of the guest rooms on the 2nd floor. My uncle slept on the 3rd floor in what used to be the attic. He'd converted it into a master bedroom years ago. The 2nd floor had the 6 guest rooms, but only 2 were occupied that weekend. A couple in their 50s in room 3 and a businessman in room 5. I was in room 1 at the end of the hallway. I fell asleep easily. The bed was comfortable and the house was quiet, except for the wind in the trees outside. I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of someone walking in the hallway. At first, I thought it was one of the guests going to the bathroom or getting water, but the footsteps didn't stop. They went back and forth, slowly, deliberately, pacing. I lay there listening. After about 5 minutes, the footsteps stopped outside my door. I heard the doorknob turn. My door was locked. I'd made sure of it before going to bed, but the knob kept turning, slowly, testing it. "Hello?" I called out. The turning stopped. Then I heard footsteps walk away down the hall. I got up and cracked my door open. The hallway was empty. All the other doors were closed. I went back to bed, telling myself it was one of the guests sleepwalking or confused. Old houses make weird sounds. People wander at night. The next morning at breakfast, I mentioned it to my uncle. He frowned. "What room did you say you were in?" "Room 1. He set down his coffee. "That's strange." "Why?" "Room 1's door doesn't lock properly from the outside. The mechanism's broken. Has been for months." I felt my stomach drop. "But someone tried the handle last night, multiple times." He looked at me for a long moment. "Did you check the hallway?" "Yeah, no one was there." He nodded slowly. "The couple in room 3 checked out early this morning, said they heard someone walking around all night. The businessman in room 5 is still here, but I saw him at 6 a.m. for an early breakfast. He didn't mention anything." We dropped it, but something about his expression bothered me, like he wasn't surprised. That night, I locked my door again, even though my uncle said the lock worked fine from the inside. I also pushed a chair against it. I woke up at 2:14 a.m. The footsteps were back, same slow, deliberate pacing in the hallway. I stayed in bed listening. This time, they sounded heavier, more purposeful. They stopped outside my door again. The knob turned, The door rattled against the chair. Then I heard breathing, heavy, labored, right outside. "I know you're in there." The voice was male, deep, unfamiliar. My heart was pounding. I didn't answer. "Open the door." I grabbed my phone and called my uncle. It rang 6 times before he picked up. "Someone's outside my door," I whispered. "What?" "Someone's trying to get in. They're talking to me." I heard him get out of bed. "I'm coming down." I stayed on the line, listening to his footsteps on the stairs. They were coming from above me, from the 3rd floor. But the breathing outside my door didn't stop. "I'm in the hallway," my uncle said. "I don't see anyone." "They're right outside my door." "I'm looking at your door right now. There's no one here." The breathing stopped. I waited a few seconds, then moved the chair and opened the door. My uncle was standing in the hallway in his robe, looking confused and worried. The hallway was empty. "I heard them," I said. "They were right here." He nodded. "I believe you." We went downstairs and he made tea. He didn't say anything for a while, just sat there staring at his cup. "This happened before," he finally said, "when your aunt was alive. Guests would complain about footsteps and voices, doors opening on their own. We tried to ignore it, but after she died, it got worse." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want to scare you, and I thought maybe it would stop." I left the next morning, told him I had to get back early for work. He understood. 3 months later, my uncle sold the bed and breakfast. He never told me why, but I didn't ask. Some places just aren't meant to have guests. I worked the night shift at a highway motel for 6 months before I quit without notice. The place was a dump. Peeling paint, stained carpets, and a parking lot full of potholes. But it was right off Interstate 80, and we got enough business to stay open. Truckers mostly. Occasionally a family or couple passing through. I worked alone from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., checking people in, handling complaints, and making sure no one trashed the rooms. The owner lived 20 minutes away and never came by during my shift unless something was broken. Most nights were boring. I'd sit behind the desk, watching old movies or reading. Around 3 or 4 a.m., I'd do a walk around the property to check for anything weird. Broken lights, unlocked doors, people smoking in non-smoking rooms. One night in February, a man checked in around midnight. He was in his 30s, tall, wearing a dark coat and jeans. He had a duffel bag slung over one shoulder. He didn't make eye contact when he asked for a room. "How many nights?" I asked. "Just one." I slid the registration form across the counter. He filled it out quickly. His handwriting was messy but legible. Michael Torres, Ohio license plate. "Room 12, I said, handing him the key. He took it without a word and walked out. I watched him through the window. He got into a blue sedan parked near the end of the lot and drove it around to room 12. He didn't take his bag with him when he went inside. That struck me as odd. Most people bring their stuff in right away, but I didn't think much of it. Around 2 a.m., I did my usual walkthrough. Everything was quiet. Room 12 had the curtains drawn and the lights off. His car was still parked outside. At 3:30 a.m., I saw him again. He was standing in the parking lot, just outside the lobby window, staring at me. I jumped. I hadn't heard him walk up. He just appeared. I waved awkwardly. He didn't wave back, just kept staring. After a few seconds, he turned and walked back toward his room. I felt uneasy but tried to shake it off. People are weird. Insomnia makes them weirder. At 4 a.m., my phone rang. The desk phone, not my cell. I picked up. "Front desk?" Silence. "Hello?" I could hear breathing, faint, steady.
"This is the front desk. Can I help you?" The line went dead. I checked the caller ID, room 12. I hung up and stared at the phone, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't.
At 4:30 a.m., I decided to check on him. If something was wrong, I needed to know. I walked across the parking lot to room 12. The lights were still off. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. "Mr. Torres, everything okay?" I heard movement inside. Footsteps. Then the door opened a crack. He stood there in the darkness, blocking the doorway. I couldn't see his face clearly. "Did you call the front desk?" I asked. "No." The caller ID showed room 12. Wasn't me. He started to close the door. "Wait," I said. "Is someone else in there with you?" He stopped. "No." "Are you sure? Because someone called from your room." He opened the door a little wider. I could see part of the room behind him. The bed was made, the TV was off. His duffel bag sat unopened on the floor. "I've been asleep," he said. I didn't believe him, but I didn't know what else to say. "Okay, sorry to bother you." He closed the door. I walked back to the lobby, feeling watched the entire way. At 5 a.m., I heard a car start. I looked out the window. The blue sedan was pulling out of the parking lot. Room 12's door was wide open. I grabbed the master key and went over. The room was empty. Bed still made, duffel bag gone. But the bathroom light was on. I stepped inside carefully. The bathroom was small. Sink, toilet, shower with a plastic curtain. The shower curtain was drawn. I pulled it back. Nothing. But the bathtub was wet, recently used, and there was something written on the mirror in condensation. 2 words. "Thank you." I backed out of the room and locked the door. When my shift ended at 7 a.m., I told the morning manager what happened. She checked the registration. Michael Torres had paid in cash. The address he wrote was fake. The license plate didn't match any vehicle in the system. We pulled the security footage. The cameras showed him checking in, showed him walking to his room, but they never showed him leaving. The car pulled out of the lot on its own. I quit the next day. Sometimes I still think about those 2 words on the mirror. Thank you. Thank you for what? I never went back to find out.